So, I'm bi. This might not come as a shock considering I've mentioned it many times before, but I've never really explicitly talked about it from my perspective, just like the stories that I make with characters that are also LGBT. But since it's Pride Month and my birthday, I thought I'd just get comfortable and explain, I don't know, my gay history, my timeline. I don't know, man. It could help people going through similar experiences, or put a different perspective on others, or to just be entertaining, I guess. So, I mean, some people say it's not a shocker anymore for people to come out, but all my life, and even still now, I live in a very small town of 3,000 chauvinistic people, with maybe a sprinkle of decent adults and other decent kids desperate to leave the town too. And coming out as anything that's not straight is a really bad idea, and coming out as anything that's not cis is a very bad idea. So I've had to pick and choose who specifically I come out to in real life, because also, like they say in movies, small towns spread everyone's info like wildfire. Everyone knows everything about everyone, and if this came out to them, it's bad. I can't. It's bad. But on the internet, I can actually talk about this stuff without fear. And it's wild to me that in so many places you can talk about it openly without being terrified of your surroundings. So maybe I cling on to talking about it online a lot because I can. And it's still just so neat to me that I can. Like, the worst I'll get is probably rude comments, and half of them would be like the usual, fag, and the other half will be like, oh, why do you always talk about it? Like, we get it. OMG, it's not that big of a deal anymore. Can you please talk about anything else? Just shut up. And to both, I say, fuck you. It's my birthday. So let's start this actual story to the moment I accepted that I like girls. Age 5. So I was watching just some random show on Nickelodeon, or a movie, I don't know. It's not one that I watched before, it was just on. And what I got from that bit of the show that I watched was the main character cared about her boyfriend a lot, but he didn't care about her a lot, so she kept on doing spectacular things for him, and he'd just not care and not do anything back. So she was very upset with this and dumped him. And she was sitting in a bedroom with her best friend, and she was crying about him and what he's done, so the friend wrapped an arm around the girl and said something along the lines of, "Guys ain't shit. He doesn't see how amazing you are. Everything you did was wonderful, and he didn't even have the decency to care. If anyone did that for me, I'd be speechless. I'd be bursting with happiness. I'd do something nice back. It's not your fault he's an asshole, it's his." And so the girl stopped crying and gave her friend a hug. And the friend said, "Boyfriends come and go, but I'll always be here for you. And I'll always love the things you do," or something like that. And in that moment, something just clicked inside of me. Everything pieced together perfectly in my head. Her soulmate is right there. Her friend would love her so deeply, and they'd be perfect together. And that's what love really is. Not just trying to get the time of day from someone who barely looks at you, but sitting curled up in the arms of someone who acknowledges that who you are and what you do is just absolutely spectacular. And no matter what happens, you'll be there for each other. I mean, I didn't realize it with all the big words because I was 5. But, that's the gist of it. And then I sat back and I realized that that was really the concept for most friendships. That their dynamic in love was always stronger than the romantic relationships I was shown at the time. Like in most shows, romantic interests just pop in for a few episodes, on the sidelines, and they barely have any development until, whoa, they gotta go, woo! And that's it. And I was never really into that kind of stuff. They're just people fodder. I don't know what the word fodder means. I hear it being used a lot, and I'm assuming it means what I mean, but yeah. pretty much all the friendships on the shows I watched that had this dynamic was between people of the same gender. And I was like, they're usually near the same age. And it's not weird, like, if a person would date a dog, because they're both humans and they're both near each other's ages. So that, like, cuts off the two biggest things to restrict a relationship. So, why have I never seen people date their friends that love them and also happen to be the same gender as them? Oh, I know! Nobody must know you can do that! I think I just invented something. So that's how I thought I invented gay people when I was 5. Alright, yeah. A few weeks later, I was doing a photo shoot with my sister. That's a little weird to say, but my sister got a cool camera for her birthday, and she liked to dress me up like her flesh Barbie and take pictures of me. And this was like a wedding dress and tiara picture. I might be able to find the actual picture somewhere, but I mean, I also might not. But after the photo shoot, my parents walked in and sat down, and we all started talking around. And my parents turned to me, like, jokingly, because I'm 5, and they were like, haha, so when are you getting married? As a 5-year-old, I gotta say, not soon. But I took that as finally my moment to reveal this cool new thing I made. So, this story is gonna be full of just embarrassing moments of like a kid not realizing, oh, don't do that! Idiot! But I stood up on the bed and I was like, I have an announcement, folks! And they all turned to me. My mom, my dad, and my sister Tay. And with the confidence that only a 5-year-old has, I told them that boys are icky and gross and I don't like them. And I'm not supposed to like them. Adults tell me all the time that boys have cooties and I shouldn't want to be around them, and stop hanging with the boys! Stop going into the boys' bathroom even though it's blue and blue's your favorite color. Boys and girls are super different and you're not supposed to even like them yet. But girls, I can hang out with girls all I want. All of my friends are girls. I like hanging out with girls and they like me. I think girls are pretty and they have soft hair and cute clothes and I like them. And I've decided that when I grow up, I want to marry a girl. So I waited for what they had to say. And it was silent for a pause, but then they laughed. I don't remember exactly what happened or what they said, but it was like the equivalent to whenever straight people see two guys kissing in like a normal and not really funny way, and they just point and go, haha, gay, and then continue on with their day. So that's pretty much what my parents did. They just said the word that I was doing, and then continued on, and then I guess erased it from their memories. But that day I learned the word gay, and I learned that it was something already invented, so I was kind of bummed that I didn't make it myself. I already knew the word straight, I just didn't know there were alternatives to it. So I sat down and I decided that I'm gay and straight. I didn't know I could just not be straight at the time, even though I just announced I didn't like boys. I thought that I had to keep that title, so I just used both of them. And life was good for a good 3 years because there was one very important thing that I was not informed of yet. So now we go to age 8, where I learned what homophobia is. Yay! Time to crush a child's dreams. So, our small town is also mainly Catholic. You know where this is going. And according to my parents, if you don't put your child in religion classes, other parents look at you differently. So from kindergarten to 11th grade, 12 years of my life, I had to go to religion classes every week. And on this day, we had a special speaker coming in named Deacon Gary. And I've heard things about Gary. Things like he was a cool and fun guy, and some of the other students were excited that he was coming to speak. And hey, guess what topic he was going to speak about? Marriage! So he starts talking, and I noticed that he kept saying marriage, between a man and a woman, and keeps emphasizing between a man and a woman. And at first I thought, hey, man, just say marriage. We all know what you're talking about. And then it turned to, hey, maybe he's being so specific. because he doesn't know gay people are a thing. I mean, I guess it's not really known that much. All I've seen of gay people at this point in my life was they occasionally go on Jerry Springer and fight and sleep around a lot, and people laugh at them. Not a very good influence, but that's what I've seen. But just because that's all that I've seen about them, it doesn't mean that they don't exist and can't get married. I honestly didn't know until it started to be legal that gay marriage was illegal at the time. I don't really keep up with anything ever going on in the world. So, what I did was I rose my hand so I could tell Deacon Gary what a gay is. Which was a very, very bad idea. But luckily, I did not, because I raised my hand up in the middle of his speech and he did not stop to acknowledge me. And then one of the other teachers watching whispered to me if I had a question, and I said no, because technically it wasn't a question. So she told me to put my hand down, and I did, because I'm afraid of authority. And I stopped paying attention to the speak he was saying, because every time he'd say between a man and a woman, I'd flinch and it felt like my heart would sink a little bit more in my stomach, and I didn't really understand why. Until I got home, and I went to my sister Tay, the one who dressed me up all the time. I have two sisters, but Erin has absolutely nothing to do with the story, so don't even remember she exists, okay? And my parents were my parents. They made me and they fed me and stuff. But I don't know, I've always had a professional relationship with them. I didn't talk to them about stuff and they didn't talk to me about stuff. They tried the period talk, but that was just them standing in the bathroom, and they showed me what a pad is, and they said, "This is a pad, you need to use it in the future. Good night." And then I grabbed the pad, and then I went to Tay, and I was like, "Tay, what the fuck is going on here?" So that's just kind of the dynamic of my house at the time. My parents would hint at something I need to know in the future, and then I'd go to Tay, and then she'd be like, "Welcome to hell." And I'm like, fuck. Damn it, okay. So it's always been my sister I can confide in with this stuff. So I went to Tay and I told her, "Hey, Deacon Gary spoke today at religion." And she was like, "Whoa, cool, he's so fun." And I was like, yeah, I hate him. And I told her about what happened, and I asked if she knew why he was so weird about marriage being between a man and a woman. And she said, "Oh, he's just really Catholic." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. He's a deacon. I got that. But what's his deal?" And side note, when I properly came out to Tay in the future, she said that this was the interaction where she actually realized it. So she told me that the church and a lot of people in general didn't think gay people should exist. And she told me all about what homophobia is and everything like that, and told me some people I knew who were homophobic and said what they told her that was homophobic, and said that from what she could tell, my parents are too, and most of my family, and most of the people around me all the time. And I said, oh, okay, that's something. And I wanted to change the subject, so I asked her if there was more than gay and straight, and she said yeah, and she told me about bisexuality. And I was like, that's cool. But inside my head, I was like, well, there I am. Glad I found out what I was right after I found out I'm hated by everyone around me. And so I shoved the word bisexual into the back of my mind and stopped letting myself think about romantic love in general for a bit until age 10. We are 16 minutes into this video and I am 10 years old. So, I loved musicals a lot as a child, and I still do. And there's this one Tay and I had on DVD called Across the Universe. But you know how DVDs have those commercials before the menu screen? We used to skip them, but one time my sister was going to get food, so I let them play. And there was one for this other musical. And there was a girl in a Santa outfit dancing, and later she took off a wig that she was wearing. And then there were two girls that were holding hands and kissing. And I twitched a bit in my seat where I was sitting. And I was like, whoa! And when my sister came back, I asked about that commercial, and so she played it again for me and told me it was a musical called Rent that she watched with my cousin a while back, and the girl in the Santa costume is Angel, and she used to be a boy, but now she's a girl, and that's Maureen and Joanne, and they're dating, and they kiss, and they're in love, and I was just like taken back a bit. And in Across the Universe, there's this girl who likes girls, but she's more of a minor character, so even though she was my favorite character in there, for the next few months, whenever, like, no one's home, I'd put in the Across the Universe DVD and just play the Rent commercial on repeat. And it felt so good! Seeing quick clips of Joanne and Maureen being happy together made my eyes watery, and something about Angel just snagged at a part of me that I wasn't ready to face yet, and honestly, I'm still not. But I adored this movie already, and that Christmas, Tay got Rent on DVD, and I made her play it immediately. And if you haven't seen it, it's a musical about a group of friends living in New York in the late 80s, just trying to get by, and a lot of them are LGBT, and they have to struggle with things like homelessness and drug use and AIDS, which, I mean, those specific topics shouldn't be watched by a 10-year-old, but the thing is about this movie, there's no big scenes of homophobia and transphobia, even though some of the characters are gay and one of the characters trans. Like, it played off as a joke in the beginning for a little bit that Maureen dumped Mark for a lawyer named Joanne, and there's a brief mention of Angel getting out of an abusive relationship with a transphobe that's like 3 sentences long. But these characters weren't defined by their identities, and they had struggles in like their relationships and lives that didn't pertain to things like, oh, I'm a gay, people hate gays, gotta hide it, gotta be ashamed of who I am. And it was the first thing outside of my own head that told me that LGBT people are more than just a gag, more than just something for straight people to laugh at. It showed me just exactly what I needed to see. And not now, but later in the future, I could find a place that I can fit in and be happy and not live in fear my whole life. It told me that I have a chance, and I just clung to that so tightly, and I still haven't let go. So, from when I was 10 to 13, I decided in my head that if I ever make it to adulthood, I can move out to a different place that would accept me as I am. But as long as I live in this town, I have to be straight. It did not work, but I tried. I kind of forced myself to start getting crushes on guys, because that's what everyone was doing. But, I mean, of course, it felt too forced, because I was forcing it. I had crushes on them, but I didn't actually like them. And I hated having crushes. It felt like agony. I just wait until the crush would dissipate, and then I'd have like a few months of peace until another crush spiked up. I'd be trapped in that routine on a loop for a few years. But something I didn't realize until much later was that I actually did have crushes back then. Just real crushes on girls. And I didn't notice because it felt so good and nice and sweet. But what I thought back then was the forced uncomfortable I was feeling with guys were the feelings I was supposed to be feeling. And the ones with girls was just, oh, I really like being complimented, and this girl's very, very pretty. So yeah, by age 14, I was just a very confused mess at that point, and everything finally came crashing down when I met Cody. Cody was the last guy I had a forced crush on, because he asked me out, and eventually I said yes. And I realized I was not attracted to guys, and then I dump him, and we don't talk for a year, and then after that I tell him I'm sorry I made things weird between us, and he's like, oh, no worries, man, I actually realized I was gay like halfway through our relationship. And I was like, oh shit, me too! And then that started getting me to notice around me that some people in this town are okay with that. And some people are that. And yeah, some safe places in other cities are like buildings dedicated to LGBT people, and even whole towns that are cool with it. And my safe places are like my car and my friends' houses and stuff. But that's more than nothing, and I thought nothing was all I had. I thought there was absolutely no safe spaces where I live. So it was baby steps. So when I was 15, 2 things happened. 1, I started trying to be a bit more vocal about this stuff. I'd be open and joke about it at school, And I'd occasionally try to bring up the topic of gay people around my parents just to test the waters and see how they really felt about it, outside of just rumors from my sister and the occasional gay people that very, very rarely happened. So I kind of clung on to every single mention of LGBT people in my house. But one day I walked in, and on the news they were talking about gay marriage, and my mom was pissed, and I asked what's wrong, and she said something like, "Oh, Obama's saying he'll make gay marriage legal. He's just trying to get more votes by gays for the election." And I said, "Well, I don't know much about politics, but isn't the duty of a president to make the citizens happy by doing things that they'll like?" And my mom was like, "Yeah, but it's the gays." And she looked at me like I was supposed to understand what the problem was. And I didn't understand what was going on until a few years later she did the same thing again when the whole trans people in bathroom debacle came up, and she was like, "This is ridiculous." And I was like, "I know, just let them use the bathroom they need." And she said, "No, they should just hold it." And I said, "Why should they just hold it?" And she didn't answer me, but she gave me that same look, and it wasn't until then that I realized that look was her telling me she doesn't think they deserve that decency. So that was something. And another time, me and my dad were riding in the car, and Take Me to Church started playing on the radio. And he told me that the music video for it started playing on TV, and two guys started kissing, so he changed the channel. And he turned to me and he started chuckling. And he obviously wanted me to chuckle too, but I didn't, and I just asked him why. And I'm not gonna go into what he told me, but I learned that day that my mom has a little sense that what she believes is wrong and disgusting, so that's why she doesn't say it out loud, she just heavily implies it. But my dad, sometime in the 80s, he believed that he was like at the peak of logic and understanding, and he just stuck to those beliefs. And as the world around him changed, he completely ignored it and stubbornly held on to that same mindset to this day. And he's somehow proud of it. He thinks that he has all the answers to the world's problems, but he won't even look up and notice that his own child is one of the things he hates the most. The second thing that that's a weird topic to just move on past, but I'm doing it. The second thing that happened to me when I was 15 was I got my first crush on a girl that was reciprocated. Her name was Shannon, and I was just head over heels for her. She lived in California, but we text every day and all day. And I pined over her for a year until I realized that we were practically already dating, and all I really had to do was ask her. So for her birthday, I mailed her a package full of gifts like her favorite book, a cool sweater, a scarf I made her, cool watercolors, and at the bottom, this is kind of embarrassing. This is kind of embarrassing. This is just, I had an envelope that had 2 bracelets I made. And I made myself one too, and I kept it, and I wore it, and mine said the word friends on it. And I sent her 2 that said best and girl. And a note that said that you can wear one or both, and I'll keep wearing mine. So that was real cheesy, but she ate up that cheese like someone who really likes cheese, I guess. But also whenever she tried putting on the girl bracelet, it popped, so I guess that's a metaphor for our relationship. But yeah, we were best friends for like 1.5 years, and then we dated for 1.5 years, and I was very much in love with her. But she broke up with me, and we didn't end on bad terms, and we tried to keep a friendship going for a little bit, but we drifted apart because she was going to all these cool places like Rome and Italy, I guess, Russia, just all those different places, and I was like stuck at home in my small, sad town. So we drifted apart, and I don't have feelings for her anymore, but I guess I have nostalgia? I know that nowadays, if she'd like out of the blue suddenly message me and be like, "Hey, you want to get back together?" I'd say no. And even if I'd say yes, it wouldn't be like it was back then. But she was a very important time in my life, and I really needed her then. I just don't need her now. So now we're at age 17. Or 18. She dumped me at like the cusp of my birthday. I just spent the last 3 years of my life hopelessly devoted to Shannon. I had my time of grief, and now I'm fine, and I'm also a hopeless romantic. And so I get a crush. And it's a genuine crush on my friend who's a guy. And I'm just baffled to my core. And the crush on him ends later on, and then I get another crush on a guy, and then another on a girl, and then another on a guy, and then one on someone who isn't either, and then one on a girl, and then another on a girl, and then another on someone who isn't either, and then another on a guy, and then one on a guy who I mistook for a girl, but he's a guy, and I got a crush on him throughout all of that, so it didn't really matter, and then another on a girl, and then another on a girl, and now another one on a boy, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Where did this come from? So if you couldn't tell from that, I've had a crush on nearly all of my friends. So, here's the conclusion I'm at now. My whole life, except that moment when I was 5 and I told them to their faces, my parents acted like I'm straight. And they'd warn me about men. They'd tell me to be afraid of them because they're strong and mean and I'm a weak and fragile little girl who can't fight back. And they might do things to me that I don't want them to do, and I'll just have to deal with that because I need to marry one, and I need to have kids with him, and I need to take care of him and do everything for him, and I'll be trapped in a life with a man who makes me uncomfortable and forces me to do things I don't want because, hey, that's just the way it is. So, of course, that being my only understanding of men for so long, of course I didn't want to be with any of them. But after the whole Cody debacle, I realized guys ain't shit. In the other way. They're not shit. Not all of them are shit. And yeah, not all men, whatever. But, I actually learned that. Like, men are also people like me, and they can have strong thoughts and feelings, and be kind and hopeless romantics, and long for love, and want to do the right thing. It's just that a lot of the time, they're raised kind of like I was raised, to just like, they were raised to shove all that aside and be pushed into the aggressive role that I was taught they had to feel. And it's kind of like the safe space hunt from before. There's not a lot of them where I live, but if you look hard enough, you could find one. But if you look fine enough, you could find them. I mean, I haven't found a guy that makes me comfortable anywhere outside of the internet who I'm attracted to yet. But like, I know they're out there somewhere now. And that's what really matters, I guess. Okay, listen, it's hard to explain in words, but I know how I feel. I've been through a lot to construct the person I am today, and I've got a long backstory, but I finally have a basic understanding of it. And honestly, that's all I need right now. So yeah, that's how I figured out I'm bi. And also, at least at the time I'm writing this down, the only family member I've come out to yet is my sister Tay, and that's completely fine. When I was younger, I thought that I'd have to come out to my parents because I found out, and I swore to myself that if anyone asked, and wasn't like some punk ass at school, Cole Roddy, who wanted to use that info to hurt me, I'd tell the truth. But none of them asked, except Tay, and that's why she knows. And as I got older, I realized that some people feel better about being out, and some people can't be out to certain people, and that's me. And that's fine. I felt like I had to come out, but now I'm feeling like I might only tell my parents if I have a reason to, like if I start dating a woman and things get serious. Because they don't have to know this stuff, and I'm actually okay with that. There's people I'm fine with knowing who I am, and there's people who I'm not fine with. And even though they're important to me, my parents aren't on that first list. It broke my heart as a kid, and it bothers me a bit as an adult, but I can live with that. And I will live with that. So, thanks for watching. Love you, boos.